Alex Hormozi has been exploding in the self-help business niche. This is a man that has all his needs covered. He has a business generating immense wealth without him even having to work on it. He has an exploding YouTube page and Instagram following. He deconverted from Christianity. He doesn't believe in God at all. He self-identifies as a nihilist, but what he said about faith may blow your mind.
Ruslan.
This video is going to be breaking down the second time Alex Hormozi went on to Graham Stephan's The Iced Coffee Hour in the Conversation of Faith. If you guys don't know who Alex Hormozi is, he has one of the, I think, best YouTube channels with regards to business, personal development, that sort of thing. He put out this book called The $100 Million Offer. I bought a copy, and I'll tell you this, when it comes to anything business related, Alex is brilliant. The ability to understand how to grow a business to a certain threshold and then to scale a business to another threshold, and his ability to problem solve is really sharp. He says his favorite book is Ecclesiastes, and the dude is low-key kind of like a modern-day Solomon in terms of how much he's been able to acquire, and his perspective on life is very much like Ecclesiastes in that he acknowledges himself as a nihilist. So we're gonna jump into this clip. I promise you what he says at the end regarding faith is very interesting, and it's actually going to tie into a massive best-selling book that also proves this point from a scientific standpoint. So check this out.
My statements are not an attack on your religion. They are simply an expression of what conclusions I have come to, and I'll say right now, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. You're right. Everyone listening to what you believe, you're right.
I think he means that halfway, but I also think he might be being facetious, but we'll just take him at his word here. Let's keep watching.
I was even going to, at the time, a Christian therapist, because I was like, I wanted somebody who understood therapy, but also like understood, Christianity, so they could kind of like work with me on these things. And after like a handful of sessions, she just looked at me and she was like, Alex, I think you just need to make a decision. And I was obsessing about it. Cause I just like, for me, until I understood like why I was here, like nothing else mattered to me. Like I was like, why am I working? Why do I care about money? What's the point of all this? Like that was always my first and most important thought, is like, once we answer that box, then everything else kind of falls underneath of it. And so, I think it's safe to say that there are very exceptional people who can make arguments on both sides in terms of like, there's nothing, it doesn't matter. And then there's really amazing, apologists like Ravi Zacharias, who's an amazing apologist. I
don't know if we should tell him about what happened to Ravi Zacharias, but the point still holds true. There's brilliant people on both sides of the argument who can make great elaborate explanations for theism, for the resurrection of Christ, and there's people who will argue those, and I enjoyed those debates. So he's saying, hey, like there's great points of view, there's great thinkers on both sides of these sorts of debates, but check out what he says next.
But I think what ends up happening is that on some level you have a belief. At some point you just have to say like, okay, there's stuff on both sides. The jury has to pass a verdict, right? And to say that like we have cracked it, or like Alex has cracked it, or like to try, like the deeper you go in these arguments, the more there are just other arguments that just continue to get pulled. And that's why I just fell into this rabbit hole where I was like, I need to start becoming a productive member of society, because like this is just going on forever. And that's when she was just like, I think you just need to decide. And for me, the thing that felt more true to what I actually believed was that I didn't think any of it was real.
So here he is experiencing this tension, going down the rabbit hole of every single argument to the point where his language is he obsessed with it. And oddly enough, his Christian therapist was like, you just got to decide, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. I have an amazing Christian therapist, Dr. Rudy, and he's always affirmed me to press into my faith. But listen to what he says next.
That initially saddened me.
So he feels this innate desire to want to know the meaning of life, the capital M meaning of life, and he obsesses with it to the point where he wants to have a understanding of it, and he says that it saddened him. And I'm going to pose a question at the end that I want us to discuss in the comments. That he discovered that, to him, he doesn't believe.
And I think it was because that initially saddened me, and I didn't want that to be. That's why I spent so much time trying to like logic my way in to believing, because I do think it's a better life perspective to believe that there's capital M meaning, that there's somebody behind the scenes who's directing our lives so we can accomplish some greater goal right beyond ourselves. I just don't believe that. I wish I did.
To believe that there's capital M meaning is a better life perspective, according to the atheist who's worth $100 million and identifies as a nihilist.
That there's somebody behind the scenes who's directing our lives so we can accomplish some greater goal right beyond ourselves. I just don't believe that. I wish I did.
Life is better with faith. He obsessed over making sense of everything. It's he wished he still believed, and he just doesn't. Now, I would point to a scientific book that I recommend all you guys check out if you haven't. There's a book called Power of Habit. It completely transformed my life, and it actually ties into some faith components. There's a whole expose on Orange County blowing up and the fabric of that community changing because of Saddleback Church being planted there. But there's a deeper whole spectrum explaining how important the faith component is in helping people overcome addiction. That faith is vitally important to people who are struggling, to people who are addicted, to people who are looking to make changes, that it is one of the keystones in any type of recovery component, including the 12-step program, which initially started as a church program. Many people don't know that. And so faith is fundamental and rooted directly in trying to change human behavior. This is in The Power of Habit. You can go fact check me on that. It's a massive book. It's not a Christian book, even though it highlights Christians institutions and the benefits of Christian institutions. And it poses the question to me that when I hear all of this, are our minds and our souls predisposed and pre-wired to desire faith? Is it possible that what he was wrestling with was actually deposited in him to obsess over by God, and maybe he took it to an unhealthy extreme, but nevertheless, that was a desire there, designed by our Creator so that we could figure out what the capital M meaning for life is? The rest of this interview is really interesting. They go through a whole intervention almost with one of the other co-hosts named Alex, and it's a mind-blowing the way they unpack his issues with weight and in eating and food and all these different things. But basically where Alex kind of tends to land is he doesn't believe that there's capital M meaning for life, and that the only meaning you get out of life is the meaning, lowercase m meaning, that you decide to add to life, or choose to glean from life, or choose to glean from your accomplishments, that none of it matters, that it's all irrelevant. I appreciate when atheists and nihilists will just say, look, it's better to have faith. It's better to have faith. The beautiful part about Jesus is that it isn't just a blind faith. It isn't just a whatever your higher power is, define it, that there's a really healthy argument for theism, which Alex will acknowledge. And if we connect theism to the bodily resurrection of Jesus, there's really a healthy argument, historical argument, that the bodily resurrection of Jesus is true. And if that is true, well, then the New Testament letters are accurate. And if the New Testament letters are accurate, well, then everything Jesus said about the law and the prophets and all that is also accurate. And therefore, God, Jesus, one, beautiful, awesome. And that belief, to Alex's point, serves us well, even though that's not the point. The point isn't to have faith just as a utility. The point is to have faith because God is worthy of the glory, and God is worthy of living our lives in a way where we know him and we make him known. And I really appreciated his vulnerability. I appreciated his tone. And so what do you guys think about this? The question in the comments: are our brains pre-wired to desire to ask the questions and have faith? Because maybe it is written in our hearts, like Ecclesiastes says, that eternity is written in our hearts, that we know there's a higher power, and to deny that is to low-key kind of suppress that. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you guys would like to know exactly why Alex deconverted from Christianity, be sure to check out this other video where I reacted to his last appearance on the Ice Coffee Hour and some of my pushback on about some of the claims that he indirectly made. So check that out. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time. Check out the links in the description for some free resources as well, all right?